The Democratic Party is directly antagonistic to the needs of its own base, to the demands and the desires of its own base. So that's the major problem here.
How young men have swung so heavily towards Donald Trump in this election, and it's raised questions about a major generational shift to the right, and also sparked a debate about the influence of media, job prospects, and education gaps. Because while people have been looking through the data, talking about all the different demos, I want to focus on young men and their turnout for Trump. With NBC News exit polls finding that men 18 to 29 went 49% for Trump and 47% for Kamala Harris, with that gap being way more pronounced in swing states. Right, CBS News found that men under 30 in Pennsylvania, they voted for Trump 56% to 38%. And ABC News finding that in Michigan, Trump had a 20-point lead with young men. And understand, this is a major gender gap nationwide because Harris got 61% of the vote for women in 18 to 29. And while yes, young people in general went to Harris, the Democrats' hold on young voters, it's shrinking. With, for example, CNN finding that the advantage went from 24 points for Biden back in 2020 to just 11 points for Harris. And Axios noting there that this shift, especially considering the turnout from young men, quote, signals that the MAGA movement with the support of a great deal of America's youngest voters has lasting power. And the thing is, right, this shouldn't be a complete shock. There's been coverage of the political gender gap heading into the election. Right? I mean, back in August, the New York Times ran an article titled, "Many Gen Z Men Feel Left Behind. Some See Trump as an Answer." And that is 100% something that Trump's campaign was actively trying to tap into, especially in terms of young men's media consumption. We had Trump just bouncing from podcast to podcast of these big male influencers. And hell, even early in the morning when Donald Trump had won the election, Dana White credited these people.
I want to thank the Nelt Boys, Aiden Ross, Theo Vaughn, Bustin' with the Boys, and last but not least, the mighty and powerful Joe Rogan.
Because not only did Trump sit down with these influencers, many of them used their platforms to advocate for. The Nelt Boys posting frequently about Trump online and condemning Harris, even going on to Fox News to discuss their support. But of course, Joe Rogan was easily one of the biggest podcast appearances, and that ultimately ended in a Trump endorsement. Though this also, as some argued, that he didn't even need to appear on the podcast to court the votes, that the popularity of those creators alone was indicative of where young men's politics lean. And all of that, as you've had some influencers ringing the alarms about it for a minute now. With, for example, this clip of Hassan Piker on Crooked Media's Offline podcast that was filmed earlier this year, now gaining some traction.
If you're a dude under the age of 30 and you have any hobbies whatsoever, whether it's playing video games, whether it's working out, whether it's, I don't know, listening to like a history podcast or whatever, every single facet of that is just completely dominated by center right to like definitely center right to Trumpian right, like openly Trump right, not like genuinely neo-Nazi. That part is quieted down a little bit, but like they're like 90% of the way there. It creates a lot of vulnerable men who are looking for answers. And I think a lot of right-wing podcasters and the manosphere and the like take advantage of that. And they do a very good job of taking advantage of it. They're like, oh yeah, you're angry. You're angry because trans people exist. You're angry because women.
The part that they clip, the part that they clipped is where I'm actually talking about young men are resentful and angry and feel vulnerable because of their material surroundings, their material conditions. That's where it starts off, where I'm saying, like, ultimately,
women are taking your jobs. Like, they should be.
I urge you guys to go watch the Offline with Jon Favreau interview that I did before the election. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to hear a lot of things where you're like, damn, how did this motherfucker know? I'm just saying, you're going to hit that. Turns out it might have not been hindsight. It was just sight.
Every single point that I brought forward to Jon Favreau became correct, became true. Going back to a traditional lifestyle.
And then, of course, as people have been discussing the, the so-called manosphere trend, or like kind of this world, a lot of people have then been pointing their fingers at the popularity of Andrew Tate, who is a self-described misogynist, where he's notably celebrated Trump's win by saying he wants to move back to the U.S. and even posting a photo of him as Trump's press secretary. Also cracking jokes about the win, saying things like, "I saw a woman crossing the road today, but I just kept my foot down. Right of way, you no longer have rights." And so now you have people arguing, if the Democrats want to win, they need a liberal.
Stop bullshitting, you dumb himbo. You pre-watched the election. No, if I pre-watched the election, I would have said that, Donald Trump is going to win. And I said that I still slightly favor Kamala Harris, albeit marginally, but I still slightly favor Kamala Harris at the end of this process. I was absolutely 100% on the money with all of my criticisms of the campaign, okay, across the board. I thought, and I said, a lot of people were doing fan fiction, including, but not limited to, a bunch of my peers and friends who I think were very hopeful. And the reality is, there's a reason why so many people in here in this chat were saying that, like, at the time they were saying I'm coping, but understand like where I was coming from and don't consistently fucking badger me over it. Because yeah, all of the things that I said that I thought made Kamala Harris a weaker candidate and potentially slated to fucking lose was correct. So if your hyper focus is on that issue, I don't know what to tell you. It's very stupid. And not only is it stupid, but it's incredibly unproductive.
And I will say, and I'll expand on this in a moment, yes, I think it is true that Democrats probably need to rethink their media strategies, especially as it pertains to the youth vote. But I think all of this, it could also...
Damn, bro. The moment we moved on away from drama, we went from like 56K to 50K. That's crazy. So we had like 7K drama pervers in the chat. It was like 56.9K.
Be an oversimplification, with, for example, the likes of Bloomberg showing charts about why young men likely voted how they did, noting that after years of stagnation, median weekly real wages for men aged 21 to 35 rose steadily during Trump's first tenure as president. Also, they're noting that many men entered the workforce under Trump, though there was notably a big pandemic drop, and many did enter again later under Biden. But the association of those original jobs, it was there nonetheless. And this is Bloomberg noted that many men are falling behind in education. And if you look at how demographics vote, the no college degree crowd was much more likely to vote right. So you have places like Bloomberg noting that all this made Trump's rhetoric appealing to young men. But then they also argued that Trump may have made young men feel heard during the campaign, and they did experience some genuine improvements during his administration. But then adding the shifts in the job market are real, and it's not clear Trump's policies will help young men adapt. And so with all of this, there are a number of things at play. If you are someone in this demographic that voted for Trump, I would love to hear your thoughts on why you did it, why you didn't do it. And it can be a specific thing or a general thing. But what I will say is, I don't know if the left needs a liberal Andrew Tate, but I do think that the left needs to get better about going to the public square. What I mean by that is, if you look from independent to right-wing influencers, they have been embraced by the right-wing political machine. You have right-wing politicians that have podcasts.
Yes.
Right. They also go on other people's podcasts. They also embrace podcasters. Right? They open the doors and fully embrace the likes of Charlie Kirk, lifted him up. And there's a whole range of these.
This is something that I've talked about twice today with both Wired and also Washington Post. Literally exactly this. Charlie Kirk and myself in 2016 were seen as literally the counterparts to one another. Like him on the right, me on the left. We debated one another at Politicon twice. And what's crazy about it is that the Republican machine swallowed him and made him into this fucking political operative for the Republican Party, whereas the Democratic machine would never do that, right? Part of that is because Charlie Kirk is a part of the base, or at least knows what the base wants and is representing the interests of the base. And when he communicates that to the Republican Party, they listen, right? They do not have an antagonistic nature. They will even go so far as to fucking align with Nazis, right? There is no position too far right for the Republican Party. Whereas for the Democratic Party, and I'm not saying this is a moral equivocation here, there is no moral equivalence between far right and far left extremism, right? Like, I am a far left extremist. What do I believe as a consequence of that? My far left extremism? Universal health care, free college education, right? No more endless fucking war. No more billions of dollars going to war. Fix the fucking potholes. Fix our infrastructure. Like, these are my insane extreme radical positions. People say, oh, re-education camps? Yeah, it's some fucking meme, dog. I don't actually believe in re-education camps. I don't think it would work anyway. I do believe in education, though. Yes, rehabilitation, education, rehabilitation over incarceration, education. My point is that the Democratic Party is directly antagonistic to its own base. The Democratic Party is directly antagonistic to the needs of its own base, to the demands and the desires of its own base. So that's the major problem here.
Whereas you see that a lot less from the left. Granted, you do have outliers. You have Bernie Sanders. I mean, it was a big deal when he went on Rogan back in 2019. I mean, he's also a great example. He hopped on Theo Vaughn after Trump. AOC is also very skilled in the space. And, in the lead up to the election, the Harris-Walz campaign did some things here and there. But I mean, to give you an anecdotal example, when I went to cover the DNC, there was like this whole official way to try and get access to certain politicians. We got one of the probably, I don't even know how many people we requested. But then separately, even though they told us not to do it, we started reaching out to campaigns, and we got Governor Josh Shapiro. He seemingly understood the value of talking to people in our space. We had to film the thing in some like echoey back room, but he took the time. Whereas with, I guess, likely soon to be former Senator Bob Casey, my team worked to get that interview. We had something set up, and then they just bailed on us. And it genuinely felt like they thought Casey was the get and not the other way around. That he was being given access to an audience of 18 to 35-year-old voters. Right? And understand, I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm not saying I'm like some crazy big deal, but I'm saying that there seems to be a disconnect for a number of politicians, and I think it feels like more so on.
Notice how you talked about more relatable podcasters, but liberals are thinking about more debate perverts. Democrats will never learn the right lessons. Yeah, I think there is room for debate in general, but this is the most common perspective that I've seen on Twitter outside of people just directly being like, Hasan is that guy. Hasan is the Joe Rogan. Hasan is that guy, and he's actually seen a lot of success. This is the other side of that equation. The issue is that the left-wing alternative to the rightosphere are people like Hasan who built a brand off Democrats suck. I did not build a brand off Democrats suck. I have not only door knocked for Democrats, I have directly worked with Democratic Party campaigns in the past. Okay? And I still talk to Democratic Party staffers. I went to the literal fucking DNC. This is what I don't understand about these fucking dumbasses. Okay? Yeah, dude, I'm just actively, cynically shitting on the Democrats to be cool. It's like they're doing such good things all the time, and I just simply can't see it. And that's why I'm cynically shitting on them. It's really hard for me because they're so good. No, dude, I'm in a fucking direct disagreement with the Democratic Party. And I also genuinely believe that if they championed some of the things that I'm advocating for, they would be presented better. They would be a more popular party. And I'm not even expecting the Democratic Party to do everything, right? Like, I want them to simply address the issues that people are experiencing with real policies, universality, not fucking means-tested garbo that is just a tax cut. What's the other common thing? They love the tax cuts or tax credits and deregulation and a private-public partnership. Like, that shit sucks. Like, more people agree with the Republican Party. Like, that's not how this works, man. There's a shit ton of people who did not fucking vote at all. And that's because the Democratic Party did not captivate them. That is what we're arguing about, because we actually want the Democrats to fucking win. Unlike you just want to be, I guess, in your mind, a defender of the old guard. This is why I don't pay a lot of attention to these people on Twitter. Remember, I said this time and time again, like, once the swap out happens with Kamala Harris, they're all going to be fucking Mamala. They're all going to be pro Mamala. They're going to be coconut pilled. And I was right, because they don't have any sort of ideological convictions, right? They don't actually care about anything. They just care about, like, defending the Democratic Party. They're regime pilled, if you will. And that's all they care about is like, no, the Democratic Party, whichever way it exists, does not matter what the ideology of the Democratic Party is, doesn't matter what their legislative agenda is. The Democratic Party as it exists is beautiful and great and is infallible as an institution. That's why they so quickly went from being pro Joe Biden to being pro Kamala Harris. And I said that. I told you they would do that. Like that. There's no fucking Biden or busters out there. They all voted. They all voted for Kamala Harris. Now, ironically enough, there were people that voted for the Democratic Party in 2020 that were like, I'm not voting again. But those people were directly being polled and they were not voting for Biden at all. Kamala at least picked up some of those people. And that's how she even made this a competitive race, because if she hadn't become the candidate with her 100-day truncated campaign, Joe Biden would have gotten wiped out by probably the same numbers. But Kamala's defeat was pretty bad. So I don't know what it would have looked like at the end of that process. Speaking of the Joe Rogan shit,
on the left,
hold on.
That they don't understand the value proposition. You go to where the people are. But yeah, like I said.
So he's right. Philip DeFranco's right. The other side of the conversation is that MAGA already losing their work bonus because of Trump. He hasn't even been elected yet. Beautiful stuff. Results have already started. This is from an American woman today. My husband worked for a small manufacturing company here in Southwestern PA. That means most employees are Trump voters. When the president of the company sat them down today to tell them their annual Christmas bonus would not come this year because, why are people celebrating this? First of all, this is probably fake. Secondly, why are you celebrating this? Like, I don't want harm to happen to anyone. Like, I don't want harm to happen to even Trump supporters who are literally openly advocating harm upon others. Partially because, like, I recognize that economic instability, even if this was true and they got cooked, economic instability is going to cause these people to become even more fucking right-wing. They're going to be like extra fascist. They need to learn their lesson. Fuck them. Dog, are you on Mars? You're in America too, dummy. If economic hardships are happening to them, it's going to happen to you too. What the fuck do you think class solidarity is? You're not somewhere else, or maybe you are. I don't know. Maybe you're foreign. Maybe you're not an American citizen, but like I get why people are bitter. I understand it. I don't know. We deserve it. That's crazy. That's crazy. Listen, no, we don't. We do not. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh, I'm sorry. We deserve it because the Democratic Party ran a dog shit fucking campaign and has consistently not addressed or examined the anger and resentment people feel towards these institutions and the establishment for multiple fucking decades. So I guess all American citizens can suck shit and die. What a fucking silly argument. It's nobody's fucking fault. Down to the last person. That's why I always say universal health care means everybody gets it. Medicare for all means for every single person, okay? And yes, that even includes fucking Nazis. You can get mad at me all day, every day. It does not matter. This is at the heart of universality. And if there are some dumb neoliberal dipshits out there who are like, actually, a universal healthcare proposal would not be good because my father, who is an executive at Aetna, would be out of a job. He still is going to get that fucking government-sponsored healthcare, and he's going to like it. Okay, I'm going to force that shit on you, dude. That's right. You can go to a fucking checkup without worrying what your copay is going to look like or what your insurance premiums are, whether you fucking like it or not, okay? You understand me? I'm going to force that fucking beautiful healthcare down your throat. That's right. You're going to like it. And you're going to get that free education, a free college education. You're going to be like, no, please don't educate me. I don't want to be educated. Fuck you. Okay. You're going to college. And that's right. You're learning about gender studies. We are making everybody homosexual. Hello.